I got to thinking with only 21 more Sundays before Christmas, I wanted to take a minute to just kind of talk to you about gifts and gift giving. Honestly, this isn't just about Christmas gifts. This goes for any time of the year, any occasion. What I get to thinking about is that I really think there are three kinds of gifts that we give. And I think they all kind of fit in here. And I was thinking about it. There is what I have always called the expected gift. And like I said, whether you're talking about Christmas or any time, it's the gift. It is expected that you will give a gift. You're invited to, whether it's a baby shower, wedding shower, birthday party, whatever it is. And the expectation is you are expected to, you don't just show up empty-handed, do you? You're expected to bring a gift. Maybe it's around Christmas time or whatever, and there's kind of that, it's Christmas, and so it is expected that you will give a gift to the boss, or it is expected that you will give a gift to your kid's teacher, or, and not that you don't want to. Don't hear me to say that you only give a gift to your boss or to your teacher if, because you have to. But I think that sometimes we get into that, don't we, a little bit, that we're kind of, I think this attitude, we become a little bit jaded. I'm not the only one. Come on, you know the feeling I'm talking about, don't you? You're invited, you're going to go. The time is, I got to go get something. Okay? Because you're expected. So that's the first one. The second type of gift is what I call the expectation gift. And this is the gift that you give with the expectation of getting something in return. Right? You give a gift because, for whatever, you give it because you want to get something back from them. We do guys, we do this. We give a great gift on Mother's Day because we know that here in a little bit it's going to be Father's Day, and so we really hope we get what we always wanted. Isn't it? But that's the gift that you get, and maybe it's like I said, it's Christmas time. You give a gift to the boss because you want the boss to pay attention to you. You want him to notice you, or you give a gift to your neighbor because you don't want them to throw too big of a fit when you build a fence that kind of blocks their sight line or something. Or it even goes down to something as simple as when you give a compliment to someone in the hopes of getting a compliment back. Right? That's that gift you give, and the whole goal of it is that you expect, the expectation is if I give you this, I'll get something back. Right? That's what it is. Or maybe it's one of those that it's, because they gave your kid, whatever. But you give it with the hope of getting something back. And then there is the third kind of gift. And the third kind of gift is the gift that you give just because you want to. Just because you want to. You want to bless that person. That's all it's about. Okay? And it may be something that, that they've always wanted, something that they've always needed. It may be, something that they don't even really know that they need, but you believe that they'll really be blessed by it, and maybe you give it at maybe a birthday party, maybe an anniversary, maybe be a, Christmas time, or maybe it's just for no other, just out of the clear blue that you just give it because you want to bless them with it. Okay? And so the reason I say this is because I think sometimes, because let's be honest, we would all like to think that every gift we give is completely altruistic and selfless, wouldn't we? But I think we have to be honest. Most of the time, what is it? The expectations or the expected gift mentality kind of creeps into our heads. And sometimes as a result, we get jaded, we get cynical. But the fact is that the idea of gift giving, it's all about the condition of the heart when you give the gift. Okay? Now, the reason I say, and I know you're thinking, okay, really, this can't be a Christmas message. And it's not. But the reason I use the analogy of gifts is because what we're going to be talking about today is love. And I know you're thinking, okay, I don't know how those fit together, and I hope that you will stick with me long enough to find out how they go together. Because what we're going to be discussing is love from... When we talk about love, we have a problem. Our problem is that I think sometimes love is talked about so much that it's kind of lost its meaning. The word love has been watered down. It's been hijacked in a lot of ways as well. In the English language, we have one word, love, and it carries all of these different connotations. In many ways, especially in American culture, we see it's in songs, it's on TV, it's written about in poetry, it's everywhere. But by and large, the concept of love has been hijacked, and it has come to mean, it's been romanticized. It's been sexualized in many ways. When we talk about love, isn't that the first thing that we start to think about is in that context? And so I think but the problem is that you read through the Bible, and all throughout the Bible, love is mentioned time and time again. It's the theme that goes all throughout it, and it's not sexual or romantic love. So the question is, where is the disconnect? And I think that's why we have to go back, and if we want to talk about how to love, what love looks like in our lives and how we're supposed to live it inside out, we need to understand what it means. We need to understand when we read it, what it's intended as. What is love? And maybe for us, the bigger question is, what is biblical love? When we talk about love from the biblical context, what is it? Okay? And like I said, this is where the English language really kind of does a disservice, because we have one word that describes all of these different connotations. And so, and you may have heard this before, but in the Greek language, in the Greek language, there are actually 8 words that are used to describe love. Okay, and we're not going to go through all 8 of them. There's 4 of them that I think are very much that they fit for what we're talking about today, and it's really the 4 that you hear about the most. The first word that the Greeks had for love was eros love, and now we've all heard this. Eros love was passionate love, almost to lust. It was the romantic, the physical love that was talked about. In fact, if you didn't figure it out, eros love is the word from which we today get the English word erotic. Okay, and so it was very much it was passionate, even lustful was what they used that word to describe. The second is something that is called storge love, and storge was more of a familial type love. In fact, it wasn't used a whole lot in ancient Greek, but every time that it was always used to define family relationships. Okay, storge love is the love between parents and children and grandchildren. It's that family unit is what it is really. That's the connotation that it always gives. Okay, the third type of love that we've heard of is phileo love, and that is brotherly love. Okay. In fact, it's kind of interesting as you start talking about it. Phileo love was actually the love of battle. Okay, it was the love of the battlefield, and I know you love in the battlefield. How does that work? Phileo love was something that was often used to describe the love that soldiers had, that brotherly love, that camaraderie that they had together. Okay, that you would have actually that they soldiers, when they went to battle with each other, they had a love for one another. Even commanders, that is what they phileo loved each other, and that's why they joined together. It is that love that allows them to go out and to sacrifice in the same way. But phileo love was also a love of identification. Okay, it was a love of identity, meaning that the reason soldiers and commanders would go and they would fight it and to the death for each other was that because they had a common unity. They were identified with each other. And so actually what you see is that to some extent this brotherly love was in order to love your fellow man, your brothers in arms, was to love yourself and to love who you were and what you identified with, okay? The last then is the one that we hear about so many times and that is agape love. Okay, now agape love was described, it is a selfless, it is a sacrificial type love, okay? And what we find is that as this translates and he relates, okay, is that agape and phileo kind of would morph a little bit because it went to a point then on the agape where that's sacrificial for the other. But this is in the Greek language, okay? Because what we find is that in the New Testament, okay, the New Testament writers took this word and they used this word agape love and applied it in the context of the Bible and of the New Testament. And when they did, they actually gave it a deeper meaning, okay, than it had before. Agape love was not talked about there's this next step that it takes. And I actually read some stuff that was saying that Christianity created agape love. No, because if you figure the sacrificial love that, like I said, that soldiers would have for one another, of being willing to give their lives to save the other, we see that love already in place. The thing is that when it was brought in and applied in the New Testament to talk about the love of God, it went to a whole nother level and a meaning that it had never experienced or meant before. Okay? Now, phileo love we find in the Bible, it is mentioned, I believe, about 26 times that we find it mentioned. Agape love is about 260 times that it is mentioned in the New Testament. And so it is something that is very, very important. But one of the reasons I went, everybody's wondering, why did he bring the gift? Here's why. C.S. Lewis described agape love as the Bible relates it, this sacrificial, unmerited, undeserved, covenantal, sacrificial love as gift love. Because it is unexpected. It is unseen. It is undeserved. It is unmerited. It is unwarranted. It's not expected, and it is not given with any expectations. It is like nothing we've ever seen before. And so C.S. Lewis defined it as gift love. Now, I know that we obviously think that, every religion, okay, religious belief system, all talks about love. And some of them do. But you know what? Christianity is the only one that is founded upon and that can find its identity in one word, which is agape love. Okay, sacrificial, unwarranted, unmerited, undeserved love. Christianity is the only one. So, one misconception that I would like you to kind of, and I've done it, and I've kind of been guilty of, we always talk about agape love, and agape love is important, but in no way do we want to discount the others. And that's one of the things. I was reading something, some misconceptions about love that Christians have. And one is the belief that agape love is the only good love. Well, that's not true. God is love, right? And so God created all love. So I'm going to tell you, number one, if you think that eros love is, no, we do. We need to get rid of that. Okay, you haven't read Song of Songs. I'm sorry. God establishes boundaries, but he intended for us to have passion for each other. So to say that that kind of love, that it's wrong, no, inside biblical bounds and in God-ordained boundaries, that eros love is good. It is needed. It is necessary. In the same way, storge love, we're going to kind of come back to it a little bit, but the love in a family, that familial relationship love is necessary. It is needed. It is so important in our lives. Okay? Storge love and just the concept of, excuse me, phileo love, did the same one twice, didn't it? Storge is familial. Get lost. Phileo. See, phileo, familial, there it happens every time. No, phileo love, that brotherly love, that camaraderie. We need that. It's the reason that the Bible speaks so many times about how brothers come together and they are needed in that way. Okay? We need people to be close to us, to carry us along during difficult times. And so to say that all of those are more important or less important than agape does not work. The difference is, though, that they are different types of love and they have their place, okay? And so, yes, we do. In our marriages, we are going to exhibit eros love. In our families, we are going to exhibit that storge love with our friends, with those that are close to us, those that are in our circle of influence. We want to have that phileo love, that camaraderie and that bonding, okay? But the fact is that God calls us to a higher love. As followers of Christ, we are called to exhibit agape love. Have you ever wondered why? Why does he call us to a higher love? Because that's how he loved us. He calls us to love agape love because agape love is how he loves us. Our key verse for this week is John 3:16, and it's something that we've read time and time and time again, I'm sure. But, I think one of the things that we need to understand when it comes to this, to love, when it comes to agape love as well, is that love is, as the title said, it is more than a feeling, okay? We have confused love and we've started to think it's an emotion, that it's a feeling, that it's a ditch that we can fall into and that we can climb out of. We have this wrong vision of love, when the fact is that as we look at the biblical definition of love, love is a choice. Love is an action. And so we read John 3:16, which tells us, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him would not perish but have eternal life. Here's one of the things I want you to understand. God didn't have to love us. He chose to love us. He chose to love us. And he chose to love us in this unexpected, unconditional, unwarranted, undeserved, unearned, sacrificial way. And he did it by sending his Son. John 3:16 makes it very clear that God's love for us goes beyond emotion. It goes beyond feelings. It goes to a decision, to a choice where he gave. You read that word love, does that fit with the way you usually define love? Think about it. No. Because to us, love is it's that ooey gooey feeling that we give. There's nothing in there that talks about butterflies in his stomach or anything else, stars in his eyes. No. This was an action. This was a choice, and I think that this is sometimes where we kind of have a little bit of a difficulty, because God sacrificially loves us. And he calls us to sacrificially love others. And this is where as Christians sometimes we get this, we have difficulty with this. Because let's be honest, if the only person we had to love was God, we would really be good with that, wouldn't we? If the command said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with all your mind. That would be good because God's easy to love. God's easy to love. And so we would like for it to be that way, but then Jesus turns around. What does he do? He adds on to that. And he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And we're like, whoa, hold on. Can I not just love God? No, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he turns around and he says that all the law and all the prophets hang on those two commandments. And that bothers us. We have difficulty with that. And it leads to this conversation that we kind of have with God where we're like, hey, God, we're good, right? I mean, our relationship, we got a good thing going here, don't we? But those people, I just cannot stand them. And he says, love your neighbor. Well, I know, but do you know what they say about me? Do you even know what kind of people they are? Can we just have our thing and we'll be really good here and we'll have this great, and we'll just kind of set them aside. Can we just do that? And he says, love your neighbor. Well, I know, but have you heard? Love your neighbor. But did you know? Love your neighbor. But love your neighbor. Okay, so God, what you're saying to me is that you and I can't have this great relationship of me loving you if I don't love them? No, what I'm saying is that you love me by loving them. Ugh. That doesn't always sit that well, does it? But here's the deal, and here's why. Because when we start talking about loving, and think of it from this standpoint, okay? How can you exhibit agape love, sacrificial, unwarranted, unmerited, undeserved, unexpected love to God? How can you do it? Can you clothe him? Can you buy him food that he needs? Can you encourage him? Can you comfort him? Can you be a shoulder for him to cry on in a difficult? How do you do that? See, we can't, can we? And so if we want to love God, agape love God in a visible, physical, tangible way, how do we do it? We do it by loving his children. We do it in a visible, physical, tangible way by loving those that he loves. Loving our neighbors, which we were commanded to do. And so, and it's not, as I said, there is nothing there that is about feelings or anything else. And that's the thing, is if loving God were just an emotion, then we could do that. We could just love him, and we wouldn't have to do anything. 1 Corinthians 13, and we've read this. Chances are, if you've been to a wedding in your life, you've heard this passage read before. I think one of the things, though, that we need to understand is 1 Corinthians 13, just the whole chapter. I'd say read the whole chapter, but specifically verses 4 through 8. Paul did not write those to star-crossed lovers, okay? These words were written to a church in Corinth that came from diverse cultural, economic backgrounds, okay? A church that obviously, a group of people, they were having a hard time getting along. And so he writes these words to them. And what does he say? He says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. There is not a single thing in there that Paul says that has anything to do, like I said, with these ooey gooey butterflies in my stomach feelings. It is about a choice. It is about a decision of choosing to be kind, to be patient. I mean, he even goes further, not in this passage, in Ephesians, he's writing to another group of believers. And he says, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. We've been called to a higher standard as Christians. And the thing is that this is supposed to then, we live this inside out, and it's going to flow into, not just in our homes. Yes, that's important in our homes, but it needs to happen in our community, in our workplaces, with the people that we spend time with. Okay? That's how we're called to love it, and not just our neighbors, because Jesus then made this offensive statement. You know, he was talking about loving your enemies as well. That just can't believe he said that. But I seriously was thinking about that. You talk about, and I said earlier we were talking about storge or familial love. I was reading this, and it was talking about the impact of this and in the family relationship. And it's not, like I said, the word's not used, didn't find it in the Bible as that particular word, but the message comes clear. We are told to love. And even when we love agape, it is still this storge type of love, that it's familial. And that's the first place. I read a quote, and this just jumped out to me, talking about, specifically about marriage, but it applies to family life in general. Talking about marriage, it's a theological laboratory where we learn how to behave as we believe. Our homes are a theological laboratory where we learn to behave as we believe. Ooh. And let's be honest, most of the time I have this problem. Too many times I'm better to strangers than I am to people at home. I have to apologize for it now and at other times as well. But we all do that, okay? We give grace to people that we don't know, that we don't give to people that we do know. And what the Bible tells us, the Bible tells the husbands we are to love our wives as Christ loves the church. Wives, they are told to love and to trust their husbands. Children are told to honor their parents in all things. That's this laboratory that we're talking about, of learning how to behave what we believe. We've said it time and time again. If our beliefs don't drive our actions, can we call them beliefs? No, because it starts first off in the home. And when agape love takes root in our home, it will spill over into our neighborhood. It will spill over into our workplace. It'll spill over into everything that we do, but that's the place that it has to begin first and foremost. Okay? And so we live it out at home, and then it will spread. And this is where we come to that whole statement of Jesus, loving your enemies and praying for those that persecute you. Because it's the hard one. And what's interesting is when Jesus said it, even he admitted this is a new idea. Because he said, you've heard it said, but now I tell you. You heard it said to love your neighbors and hate your enemies. And now I'm telling you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And sometimes we read those and we're like, I don't know if that doesn't really apply. Here's the deal. 2 years after he said those events, after he said those words, Jesus did something that we all talk about. He was hung on a cross. What were the first words that he said from that cross? Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. Have you ever told your kids, do as I say and not as I do? Have you ever told anybody, do as I say, not as I do? I'm the only one in the room? Okay. No, we all do it. Jesus said, Do as I say and do as I do. And then he modeled it on the cross. He prayed for those that were crucifying. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And here's the point, is before you start explaining away the way that people treated you and the fact that they're not believers and they're heathens and they love the devil and whatever, I don't care what you want to say about your enemies and those that persecute you. I will tell you this. The God who will pray for the forgiveness of those who are nailing him to a cross has absolute moral authority to demand and command that we do the same. Our excuses do not hold water. They don't hold water. Love your enemies. And then I get to thinking too, imagine this. As awe-inspiring as it is to think of Jesus hanging on the cross and praying for the forgiveness of those who were crucifying him, think of the sacrificial giving of God when he sent his son to die for the disobedient and the rebellious, knowing that when he sent him, they wouldn't even listen then. But here's the deal. The disobedient and the rebellious are you and I. You know, we read John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. And man, it looks great on like art and decor, and it's wonderful as a bumper sticker, and it's amazing to read, and we love that. But I think sometimes we kind of read it as this abstract kind of passage. Have you ever sat down, pulled out your Bible, opened it to John 3:16, realizing that those words are in red, which means that they are the words of Jesus, and taken out the world and put your name in it? Have you ever read it as if Jesus were saying to you, Jeff, my Father loves you so much. He sent me. So that if you will believe, you won't perish, but you'll have everlasting life. Jeff, my Father didn't send me to condemn you. He sent me to save you. Whew. That really wasn't where I was going to end it, but I'm going to have the praise team come up. Because I don't think as we sit here and talk about love and the way that we are loved and the way that we are to love others, is there anything that proves that point? But I mean, just imagine that moment. Hey, we're going to stand and we're going to have our time of decision. And as the praise team is playing, would you please do me a favor? Close your eyes and imagine Jesus standing before you and saying those words. And if that does not change your heart, if that does not change the way that you look at others, if that does not change the way that you love those that live next door to you, that live in your home, that you work with, if that doesn't change everything that you see about the world, then it's time to change something in your life. It's time to make a decision to understand who he is, to recognize Jesus for who he is, for what he is, and to realize that he gave everything for you. That his Father sent him. That God demonstrates his own love for us in this, his own agape, unmerited, unwarranted, unexpected, unconditional, sacrificial, covenantal love. He declares it for us in this, that before we were ever born, before we ever existed, before we ever knew Jesus' name, he died for us.